us, they need us, they need us. We are the children.
Some may argue that there is no film culture in Nollywood except entertainment culture, because in the 70s we had what you call film culture, but we lost it. Then in the 90s we had the VHS and VCD culture, film culture you might call it, but cinema culture resurged back in the 2000s. I would also say if you don't have a film culture, you probably will not have a national identity to portray in your films. And some would also say if you don't go to film festivals to show your films, you will not have opportunity to, show your national pride and even a platform to show yourself as a filmmaker. Welcome to Film Talk. I am Akman. Film Talk is powered by We Entertainment. Log on to www.filmlab.ng. Our guest today is a photography devotee, a filmmaker, and a film lecturer. He functions in the following filmmaking roles: SYLVIA Producer, Light in the Dark, Producer-Director. He's also a film studies lecturer at the Pan-Atlantic University, Lagos, Nigeria. He has covered many milestones. In 2019, Light in the Dark was screened in 5 different continents and is currently on Netflix. In 2018, LasgidiVice screened at the Cannes International Film Festival. In 2015, Oblivious was chosen Best Short Film winner, African Magic Viewers' Choice Awards, AMVC. In 2015 again, Encounter, a short film on the Nigerian Civil War, and Best Jury Film Choice, African International Film Festival, AFRIFF, among others. Welcome, Ekene Som Mekwunye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start today's discussion by watching first of 3 movies, SYLVIA.
From the first day you took your first breath, I have loved you. And nobody is going to take that away.
Sylvia, you, of all people, should have known that this day will come.
How am I supposed to know that the day would come where you would fall in love with somebody else?
What did you expect, Sylvia? You're not even real.
I may not be a real woman, but you will never find anyone like me. You have to leave soon. It's almost 6 a.m. Your time. So you like her?
I love her. I am getting married to the most incredible woman that I've ever actually met. I came to tell you that this has to end. Getting married to her next Saturday.
I know that.
I know that we had some good times, but things have changed.
Richard, nothing has to change.
I've made my decision, and I'm sticking to it. I don't care if you plague my dreams every night for the rest of my life. Maybe they sent you red hibiscuses?
Mm-hmm.
This is not what we're looking for.
I don't think I understand.
Figure it out.
I need your help.
Have the nerve to come here and ask me for help after what you did.
I need you to go somewhere, in case I know you're safe.
Safe? From what?
First, I asked you to get rid of those bloody hibiscus. Now I'm asking you to
Do not raise your voice at me. I will not be ignored.
Leave me alone! Richard!
Revenge is like an art form, and I am like Picasso on steroids.
SYLVIA is reported to be a compelling, shocking, and unforgettable movie tale of love, loss, betrayal, and deadly obsession, which ends in shocking disappointment. It is a daydreaming and passionate Richard who commits to certain fulfillment with friend and lover Sylvia, but soon faced with realities that frustrate her and faces disappointment in his fantasies. Yeah, that's it. So what is film culture? Let's put it this way. Film culture is the aggregation of story arts and technology as a reflection of society. Now, Ekene, given the report on Sylvia, would you agree with some views that Nigerian film culture is more of entertainment than a film culture?
So, for me, the first question is, why are films being made? I believe that films are basically made to entertain people. When people go to cinemas because they want to enjoy a good story, they want to be taken on a journey to a world that the morals would never find themselves. So I for one, believe, sincerely that filmmaking, you can never take away the entertaining factor of filmmaking, because that's what it's there for. But at the same time, I understand its influence on culture and how we should be mindful of those aspects. But I believe that we have to be very careful as to how we position it. I don't think it's to the far end right or to the far end left. I just feel that we should bear in mind about its influence on culture, but at the same time, let's also know that it's there for entertainment and people should have fun watching these films.
Well, I simply believe that film culture, in its filmmaking itself, has its own culture, its own peculiar culture. Therefore,
yes,
because I said earlier that is an aggregation or the averaging of story arts and technology, it would seem that in terms of structure, in terms of skills, in terms of what stories we are telling, just like you're saying, we must not forget about entertainment. But then, film culture, as in, if you go to Europe, you go to the USA, America, there are certain films that are made to portray, what do I say, the ecology of film, let me put it that way, the environment of film, not the story itself, because you have story to entertain, but then you also have culture that drives the story. Among skills, amongst resources, amongst location, amongst characters or players of the characters, we usually have what is called a film culture. So if you move away from entertainment a little bit, you will now begin to see film culture differently or distinctly. Can you comment on that?
Okay, yes. It's just like we say that art imitates life, and in some cases, life can imitate art. I believe that when you watch our films, we've even come to a point where Nollywood is seen as a genre in film right now. And one of the reasons is because of the certain cultures that are inherent here in this part of the world that it exhibits. I sincerely believe that when you watch our films, these are the films that make Nollywood, in the sense that our cultures are well represented. At the same time, I think we also have to be very careful, because when we talk about culture, really, or look at Nigeria, what do we see as culture? Because culture is a way of life, and Nigeria is a very big country. Where you have over 250 ethnic groups. There's something I tell my students a lot of times. A lot of times when we see a film and they say, oh no, this cannot happen in such a place or such a time. And I tell them that be careful, because Lagos is not Nigeria. Or what a lot of people know is Lagos, and you can't use that to equate for Nigeria. There's so much about Nigeria, there's so much about our culture that a lot of people are not aware of. But I sincerely believe that when you watch our films, like for instance, you just showed the trailer of Sylvia, and basically what Sylvia is spirit wife, or like how we call it over here, and it's something that the average Nigerian understands. It might not be something that everyone is very peculiar with. It has never been my reality, but that doesn't mean that the fact that it's not my reality, it's not something that happens or something that people from this part of the world do experience. So yeah, that's exactly how I like to say it.
Okay, if we want to talk in terms of the kind of stories we tell, most films done in Nollywood is either they are cross between our culture or American culture or European culture. I just hope that we don't start speaking Chinese in our films. When you depart from this level or from that aspect and begin to, like some artists who speak Fone in our films, in Hollywood films, it becomes more like, bastardized American film or bastardized Nigerian film. So between our culture and foreign culture, where should we actually derive our culture, our film culture?
Okay, so I think a bigger question is, what is our culture right now? Because I hear people say it's a very big argument going on right now. So I'll give you an instance. Why are we not speaking Igbo right now, or speaking Yoruba? What I say is this: times have evolved. We have to realize that the world is quickly becoming a global village right now. And it's very, very, very easy for us to be influenced by Western culture. I understand also what you mean in the sense that, yes, now a lot of people want to speak like the Americans, and a lot of people want to dress like the Americans. There's something I learned as a filmmaker. There's something I learned from Hubert Ogunde. There's something he said, and which I found very paramount for me, which is, when I make my films for my people. I don't believe that there is anything such as an international, anything like international media, because at the end of the day, every media house has a target, and it might not be clear to you, but if you really look deep down, you will see that everyone has a target. And I make films for my Nigerian audience and my African audience, and I am aware of. And again, it depends on the story and depends on time. If we're going to do anything that is set in 2020, come on, and you'll say, social media is not our culture, or we can't use that. No, I believe that, like I said, art imitates life. And if you look at the world as it is today, even the America that we're talking about, there's, over time too, you would find that certain cultures from other parts of the world have influenced the way they live and the way they see things. So I see the world as a global village, and it's going to be difficult for us to be able to say, except we want to say that we won't show ourselves living in huts and wearing leaves, and which is not our culture, really. Culture is a way of life, and this is how we live today. Times have evolved, things have changed, and I think it's time for us to just face reality. I understand there are some things that are still African about us, but it's been influenced, and that's how I see life.
I don't know if you watched this movie, United Kingdom, starring Nigeria's David Oyolowo. Have you? Yes. Now look at that movie. It's a complexity of love, romance, politics, colonialism, all kinds of things. Now, if you look at that story simply demonstrates, according to the director or Oyolowo himself, he said he used romance and love to override other aspects of the story, like politics and colonialism. But then you still see in the story an aspect of that politics and colonialism. What I'm trying to say here, and what I think we should do is, we should not just do movies because we want to sell bubble gum, or do movies because we want to show that we have spiritual powers, like when we do the juju movies. What we should do is to make films that will drive national development. You understand? if you make films that drive national development, if you make films that influence people. I was talking to a filmmaker the other day, and I said, if you can make a series that will tie the Nigerian housewife to watch and get oriented, to begin to behave like an African woman. When I say African, I don't mean we should go back to becoming villagers also. So in doing so, if we do a movie like maybe a movie on Nana Obi Shekeri, or if you do a movie like King Jaja Wopobo, and you probably take aspects of that movie and plant it in a modern setting and begin to educate our people to understand what essentially Nigeria is about. Nigeria, you'll be able to drive development, you'll be able to orientate people to think Nigeria. I think if we go that way, we sort of grow a film culture that would actually develop Nigeria. I don't know if you agree with me.
Okay, can I say something? I have made, in fact, virtually every film I have made, I've had one of those themes, that have to do with, educating people and building certain consciousness. And I'm completely aware of that. I have to tell you something. See, film is a very, very powerful medium. And I am very, very much aware of its influence and how we can also use it to build a positive society. And at every point in time, I'm aware of this. And even while I'm telling my stories and writing my stories, these things come to the fore. But I'm also aware, so I'll give you an instance. The last project that I did, which is not out now, it's titled One Lagos Night. It was comedy. Yes, at some point, I kept asking myself, because the main purpose for creating this was just to create humor. I know at some point, I kept asking myself, because it was looking like, we were trying to elevate stealing, kind of. So I was very much aware of this, and I understand the power of film, and how we can use it to create a positive society. But while we're doing that as well, I always, like I said, it's about creating that balance, because while I'm doing that, I'm also very careful not to be creating a Sunday service, because people are going to spend their hard-earned money, and they want to be entertained. I mean, so yes, I completely agree with you in that instance where we have to. So, for instance, okay, maybe I know it's one of the movies you want to talk about, The Encounter. When we made The Encounter, there are so many questions I wanted to answer with that film, and even when I made Light in the Dark, there are quite a number of things that I deliberately put there as the writer of the story to be able to inform people and educate people. So yes, I understand that aspect, but at the same time, I learned filmmaking from Amaka Egwe, and Amaka Egwe would always say, I'm an unrepentant commercial filmmaker. Show me the money. At the same time, because I need to be able to entertain my audience and make them feel good, and make them want to come and see my film again, while having that consciousness, of having this culture and telling certain stories and bringing certain consciousness to the minds of the people. So I have never at any point not being conscious of the power of film and how it influences people and how it affects people. And when I write my stories and when I make my films, I have these things at the back of my mind. But what I was trying to say in essence is the fact that while I have this at the back of my mind, I never lose consciousness of the fact that I need to entertain my audience. I need to give them a very good story. I need to give them a story that would hold them spellbound and make them, at the end of the film, be able to say, "Oh, I enjoyed this film," while thinking about whatever message it is that we're trying to pass.
Well, I agree with you. There's need to have a balance. We're still on to Film Talk, and I'm talking to Ekene Som Mekwunye, a filmmaker, a film studies teacher, and a producer-director. Ekene, believe me, you mentioned The Encounter, so let's get to that. The Encounter is my best film in terms of the products that you've done as a filmmaker. Maybe because I haven't watched other films, but Encounter hooked me. When I saw the argument in the short film, you know, I call it a filmmaker's opinion, and I also call it value addition, which goes back to what I said about film culture. You know, so no matter how you want to see the theme of the movie, which is about Nigerian Civil War between 1967 and 1970, you see the argument between the two individuals that are involved. In fact, they were actually having a very emotional encounter, and even for the fact that they were childhood friends. So, can you tell us who is the protagonist and who is the antagonist?
Very, very good question. I think that from the way the movie was made, it was very obvious that it was Emmanuel Ifeanyi's story. But let me tell you an interesting thing. In the first scripts, it was not supposed to be anybody's story.
So let's play the movie first and see, so that people understand what we're talking about.
Okay. All right.
Emmanuel Ifeanyi, how the mighty have fallen.
Nice to see you too, Oko. If you had given me enough notice, I would have cleaned up. It seems you've lost your respect, Oko. Even if I have fallen, I still outrank you.
You did. But not any longer. I outrank you now. You would address me as Lieutenant Colonel Oko.
Congratulations, Oko. I'm sure it's a position well earned.
Ifeanyi, you should have been dead by now. At least your treacherous body would have been manure for the motherland.
You have two boys to back you up now, eh? And all of a sudden you feel like a leader. Lieutenant, you were always the runt of the battalion. Coward.
Let's go. Over there.
Stop that nonsense. Acting like a bloody Nigerian. Pick him up, now.
General.
Major, my apologies. Some of my men can be a bit overzealous.
Well, I'm considered dangerous. I'm rumored to have killed the Prime Minister.
Still the drama queen, aren't we?
It's just to entertain you. You still have a bed.
Well, Ekene, as you can see, this film portrays what happened between the two characters, the two intimate characters during the Nigerian Civil War. I will say exactly what a Metrograph, a New York-based publication, online publication, said. It said, it is a short film that documents the last encounter between the Biafran warlord Emeka Ojukwu and Ifejuna Kaduna before the latter was executed for treason during the heat of the Nigerian Civil War. So for the purpose of Nigerian film culture, we were talking about who is the protagonist and the antagonist. And you said, because you're the filmmaker, you said Ifejuna is the protagonist. So let's hear you.
Okay. So yes, so I produced this short film. And I think it's clear that Emmanuel Ifejuna is the protagonist in the sense that we actually even start with him and we see him all through the film. But if you look at the film, originally, it was supposed to be just, it was supposed to be difficult for you to be able to say who the protagonist is.
Yeah, that's what I found out.
And who the antagonist is.
That's what I found
because
out.
if not, if not for how we started the film and the clips that we showed at the end of the film, to show that, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, unfortunately, don't even know who Emmanuel Ifejuna is, or who he was, in the sense that he's the first, actually, I think he's the first African to win a gold medal in an international event in long jump. And yes, he was one of those that played the first coup that was led by Kaduna and Zogo, actually. So his name is not Kaduna, actually. And in a way, his name had almost been wiped away from our history books. It was even said that even his kids, because he was seen as a traitor, his kids had to change their names just because they didn't want to associate with such a person. But the movie was about two people who, and it was, I mean, at the end of the day, you make your decision who's right or who's wrong, and we didn't want to tell anybody who, I mean, whose side you should belong, but they were two friends.
That's why I call it a grand argument.
Yes. These are two childhood friends, who grew up together, and you could tell that they were very close. Making a case for the war, why the war should take place, and down making a case for why the war shouldn't take place. And for someone from that part of the country, my dad actually even fought the Biafran War, and
really?
And we, a lot went into the research for this film. For me, it's something that really comes home because my dad was actually a prisoner during the Biafran War, actually.
Oh yeah.
He was captured as a soldier, and I think for like 6 months before the war came to an end, he was actually in prison, just like Ifejuna. Fortunately, he wasn't killed, because I don't think I would have been sitting here if he was, But a lot of research went into into this film, and it was and it's for a lot of people that watch it, they say they can't believe that they spent that amount of time just watching two people have a conversation, and a very intelligent conversation, because you could tell that both of them had their points, both of them had reasons for doing what they did, but at the end of the day, it's left for you to decide, who you think was right or wrong. But why I believe so strongly that it's Emmanuel Ifeanyi's story is because he has, apart from having more screen time, or the most screen time in the film, we spent about a minute or two educating our viewers who this guy really was, and yeah, so that's why I believe it's his story.
That's what I'm saying. That's why when I say film culture, that's what I'm talking about. Now you've brought an obscure person, let me put it that way, that may not be known by the present generation. I mean, so the question is, does this present generation understand the standing national argument about building a nation out of Nigeria? And these are people who argued on the side of whether they should build in Nigeria or whether they should build Biafra. So how would we, you've made a film now, which is very relevant in the context of today.
Yes.
Would this would this kind of thing ever be able to resolve the national question when it educates, orientates, and consciously make people begin to think Nigeria? Imagine you do another kind of film like this. Would such films be able to orientate Nigerians to think Nigeria?
Interestingly, I am planning to make another film, about something that took place during the Civil War. Unfortunately, I don't think I want to talk about what aspect of that part of the war that I'm trying to bring to screen, but something that really drives home, for me. And yes, and for the purpose of such, because unfortunately, there's so much around that story that Nigerians are not even aware of. I find myself, and I think that the average Nigerian should read about the history of Nigeria.
Yes.
Not just the average of not just the average Nigerian. The average person should read a lot about history, because there's so much to learn. I'm privileged to have read books from people like Frederick Forsyth, people like Ademola Ademoyega, that wrote While We Struck. Read books about. I've read books about the Civil War, about the coup Nigeria, about
perhaps Obasanjo's My Command too.
Yeah, So I believe that there's so much about our country that we would never know except to read this kind of books, to understand why we have certain biases, taking place in our country, and to understand why, to a large extent, we are the way we are as a nation. And one of the reasons, again, to understand why it's difficult for us to make a lot of progress. So yeah, I believe strongly that films like this should be made. But also, we have to be very careful. So I'll give you an instance. Even though the encounter is just 18 minutes, the pre-production that went into the encounter and research that went into the encounter took almost a year.
Really?
Oh yes. So we have to be very careful. So like the project I'm working on now, I don't see myself shooting that film until maybe about 2020. Sorry, maybe about 2022. And it's something that I had started working on since last year, because we are representing history, and also we have to be very careful about what we call history, because just like, I'll give you an instance, how some people came to tell us that Mungo Park discovered the River Niger,
And also we have to be careful not to raise emotions that will cause problems. For example,
yes.
Example, so before we go to the next visual, which is Light in the Dark, which also seemed to portray what happened in the encounter, I want to tell you about Isaac Boro. if somebody would ever make a film about Isaac Bori, it might become controversial. You understand? So let's go to Light in the Dark, which is a love story that brings up issue of tribalism and betrayal. So let's play Encounter and see what happens in the Light in the Dark.
She's the older generation. You have to remember that. Mama, this is Jumoke.
Mama, Deo. You can't be serious, Emeka. Your mom doesn't like me.
My mom may not like you, but she has to accept you. Because I love you. I love you. I will stand with you. I will protect you.
Yes. I'll marry you.
Yes! Come in! That is what I'm talking about! That's what I'm talking about! That's what I'm talking about! My back.
Your wife or your daughter?
Did you get a good look at his face? No. Maybe talk to someone about it.
And tell them what exactly? That my husband can't protect me.
Okay. That's not fair now.
But it is the truth, Emeka. Nobody must ever know.
The world isn't beautiful. It is dark. And cruel. And evil.
I want you to help us catch these people.
Well, as you can see, I'm still talking to Ekene Som Mekwunye, and we're on Film Talk. Like I said before, if you want to know about Film Talk, go to www.filmlab.ng. I come to you, Ekene. We've just watched Light in the Dark, a tribalistic sort of thematic portrayal. But you, in your lifetime, you've worked as a producer in 53 Extra and Jara. You work at MT Project as project coordinator on MTV Sugar 3. You're managing Riverside Production, which created My Big Nigerian Wedding, which is a big show on Nigerian TV now. And you're also a disc jockey. So can you briefly run down your life? Or I'm using the word run down. Can you briefly give us a brief of your life, considering your professional, milestones,
Okay, so I started my journey into film when I learned filmmaking from Amaka Igwe. I was privileged to learn filmmaking from her before she passed through a workshop she organized. And after that, I started working at Mnet, where I worked on shows like 53 Extra, Jara, and I was in charge of all channel, all content that was shot in Nigeria. After that, I became, I was project coordinator for Sugar 3.
Yes.
It was the first time they were going to shoot Sugar in Nigeria, so I had to organize from, when the head of story was going to come to Nigeria and put together films to make the production happen. And immediately after that, I started my company called Riverside Productions, and we've been involved, like you rightly said, creating, making films and TV shows. We created one of the biggest wedding TV shows in Africa called My Big Nigerian Wedding, and we also have the rights. And I'm not into this joke. I have the rights to the biggest DJ competition in the world for Nigeria. I have the rights for Nigeria to the biggest DJ competition in the world called DMC in Nigeria. And yes, I also teach film. I teach film at Pan Atlantic University. I've been doing that for about 3 years now.
Impressive.
And I enjoy making films.
Yeah, I know. I can see your products are resounding. In fact, I would wish you could make that encounter into a full movie. They are so bespoken. But then the grand argument is this question about how much of Nigeria's value system has not only reflected, given the replication of violence and social greed, among other negative messages in movies around the world? Isn't it bubblegum and juju only?
Okay, so yes, thank you for that. And I'd like to say this. We have to realize that Nollywood has evolved over time. It's not the kind of movies that we're making in the late 90s that we make nowadays. When you go to cinema and you watch Nigerian films, we now tell a very broad and wide range of stories. If you go on Netflix, so for instance, Light in the Dark is on Netflix, and by the way, SYLVIA is going to be on Netflix from the 15th of July.
Oh yeah.
And oh yes. So if you go, we tell different. I mean, Nollywood cannot be put in a box now.
I understand.
Unlike
yeah,
the way it was.
I mean,
unlike the way it was in
theaters are opening
the
up,
late 90s.
And we are going global. Yeah. I understand. So
yes, and we're telling different stories. We're telling different stories. We're not just telling. In fact, I can't remember when last I saw a Nigerian movie and they were telling juju stories. I can't remember when. No, it's the truth. So and I have this argument with a lot of people. They say, "Oh, I really don't like to watch Nigerian movies. They like talking about juju too much." And the question I often ask them next is, "When does this say Nigerian movie?"
I think what you should
say, we have
what you should tell people is, go and watch my movies. Don't say they are not producing, because yes, what you should tell people is, go and watch my movies, Encounter, SYLVIA, and Light in the Dark. That's what you should be telling people. You should say, go and watch my movie. Stop telling me that it is bubblegum or juju. That's what you should say. So, again, it's been nice having you on this show. And I believe that as time unwinds, we will have you again on the show. Thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to talking to you again. My
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's been Film Talk on Film Lab every Friday, 4:30. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you want to know more about what we do, you can go to our website on filmlab.ng. It's been nice talking to Ekene. You can see how film should redirect our consciousness to build Nigeria. Thank you for watching.
IT.